There we go. Great. Okay, I'm gonna call the meeting of the planning board, June 8th to order, please. So present, I have, associate member Nancy Garvey, Sandy Bodmer Turner.
Here.
Peter Morton, Ron Fry.
Here.
Sarah Creighton. Rizalni.
Here.
Don Harden.
Here.
Gordon Brewster.
Here.
And Mark Resnick, land use director is, he'll step out for a minute. Welcome, everybody. We just had a nice, walk of the general district, in our first meeting, so just to continue our ever-present discussion of zoning. And welcome to our regular meeting. Sorry. Please. Okay, any public comment on matters not, well, first of all, can someone online, maybe the Olson Lewis or JB or Brett Smith, tell me.
Loud and clear, Karen.
Great. Okay, so no public comment on matters not on the agenda. None. We will now open the public hearing for 1 Deer Hill Road site plan review, the construction of 2 multifamily homes on the same lot with more than 1 residential dwelling unit in each building. So, and before I ask for a motion, I'm going to ask John to go take a seat in the audience as he has a conflict of interest. So I'll take a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Great, thank you. So tonight, who we have, come forward, and I'll let you take it away.
Sure. Thanks, everybody. You'll remember me from before with this 1 Deer Hill project. We came in. It's in the 3A zone. It can accommodate up to 7 units. We had a plan for 4 standalone units. Apparently, the 3A zoning that you all adopted didn't allow for single family detached. It built up duplexes and triplexes. And that came up at that meeting. And initially, I thought that was going to be a problem, and we definitely for a recast of the bylaw at your town meeting, and that would have been on one time. The reality is, with a little help from Olson Lewis and Julie McDonald and Adam, we were able to just do a little connections, and we modified the site plan anyway, so we ended up with 2 duplexes. So it's not the same total, but there are 2 duplexes. In a funny way, it was a very good idea on the part of the plan board, because we were able to knock down by a few percentage the amount of impervious area, i.e. Pavement, yeah, which is always a good thing. And the new arrangement gives us little pockets where we can put individual small patios, and maybe square feet, distinct one from the other. The only negative, and it's sort of small, is I think 1 or 2 garage doors might be visible as you drive up Deer Hill Drive. And initially, none of those garage doors were visible, but 6 of the 8 are going to be still well handled, and 2 of them are. I think you all have seen the plans for this. The architecture is meant to relate to one to the other, and also be somewhat in context with what happens along Pine Street. You'll recall that the 2 34 and 36 Pine Street, the 2 new houses. I'm building one of them. We've been tapping away at Ledge incredibly for a long time, but we're almost ready to start foundations. My brother's going to do the one beside me. They'll be slightly different in styles, but they'll still work with what you see as you drive up around Pine Street. But the ones that the 4 that are grouped together on this other acre parcel are meant to look like cousins, at least, and some of this. Donna's been on this side of the table briefly, but I'm sure that Julie will answer any questions you have about the architecture, and I'm certainly glad to answer any questions about how we got to this, but the short answer is your concern about single family house was correct, and duplexes worked out fine, and the reality is if you want to pursue the change to include single family detached at the next, then we'll do that, but that's something that we'll find by. So,
Okay, do you have a presentation? You,
Sure, I did a request to share screen. I don't know if everybody.
I think I gave it to you.
Oh, you sharing?
Yeah.
I can bring it up if you. I don't know if it's his personal. Use it, yeah. And can you just introduce yourself? Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Julie McDonald from Wilson Lewis Architects. So we've made some slight modifications to the last time you saw the designs. We still have the 1.5 story homes, similar designs, some similarities between them, those porches which announce the entries. We've got a combination of gambrel and gables, 1.5 story. Some mix of materials we're looking at, clapboards and shingles, asphalt roofs, and the entry roofs all have copper or metal. I should say we're looking at copper, but maybe metal. The connectors ended up working really nicely in order to create these these duplexes. What we've done is add these little walkways, which are also covered spaces that connect to one of the unit's kitchens. And those allow us to have a little steps down and a little covered eating area. And we're also looking at the access through to some patio areas that we're looking to develop. The one thing that this was the drawing that was submitted, and the one thing that we're adjusting is the location of this walkthrough. We want to pull it a little closer. Sorry. Can we see it?
Looks good.
And that this allows us to have great access from, again, that kitchen, that unit, and the through space to a patio.
Can you please point out the patios?
They're not really completely developed yet, so we're not seeing that, but they will be looking in this area, and I believe, Tom, were you saying also up here as well?
Conceptually, this, and that.
I see.
Because of the way that the thing changed around, we're able to do that and still get these little patios and 50 square feet of privacy, one building to the other. The other thing as a developer that I should tell you is these are all constructed at a reasonable scale, 2,800, 3,200 square feet. They're really meant for people that look like me, I guess. First floor master bedrooms. There will be a couple bedrooms upstairs, but it's thought that these will be more than likely senior housing, or not 55, not age restricted, just that people that have, one child in college, this would be a perfect house for those. They're not meant to be 4 bedrooms, plus kids. And in fact, they're all 3 bedrooms.
So our, jurisdiction here is site plan review. Under the MBTA housing provisions. One of the things is, minimum number of parking spaces is 1.5 spaces per residential unit. So I think we have that. Have you confirmed that? Okay. And our applicability, like I said, site plan review. And the criteria is reviewed for the consistency with the purpose and intent of the MBTA zoning. And section 3 performance standards for site plan review. So we should review those. And then this will have to go to the design review committee. Mark, can you
Yes, so
review for us what that is?
the design review committee was set up through the zoning bylaw for to review the designs of new buildings that you seek approval through the MBTA zoning, which is called the Citizens Housing Living District. So what the planning board will do after tonight, after they take public comment, get some feedback to the developer and their architects, is and request any additional information, is to forward the design plans for the buildings to the design review board. Then can be try and find a meeting time for them to meet, review the plans, and review them with the architects and give feedback, and depending on their thoughts on the plans and what they may request, it may take 1 or 2 meetings, or theoretically it could go more, but at some point they need to report back to the planning board with a recommendation, and then the planning board would finish their site plan review of the property, including taking any recommendations from the design review committee under advisement. But that's kind of the process.
And the design review committee is Gordon, Barry Gilbert, and Chuck Wisner, right?
Yes.
Yes, that's right.
Mhm.
Okay, great. So we'll get that together ASAP.
Yes.
They don't have to meet in a public, I mean, they have to meet in public, but they don't have to have a public hearing, right?
No, it's not a public hearing. They're just an advisory board, if you want to call them, a committee to the planning board. So they're not necessarily decision makers. They don't say yay or nay, but they make recommendations to the planning board, which has the ability to say yes or no.
Mark, are their meetings open to the public though? I assume they.
Yes, they are
announced,
public.
you know.
Because they're appointed by this board, they're a public body.
Since it's the first time we'll be doing this thing, so we have to actually not put an announcement, there will be a meeting on such and such a
Yeah,
date, such as
Mark will.
the time.
Yes,
At which point we can hold it in public.
yes. We have to post an agenda.
Yeah. Mark will walk you through. that
Actually, this would be a good first
one because it's,
run of this because the design seems to be perfectly acceptable, so. They may. have-
Tainting the jury there, Chris.
I'm just saying,
No, I think we need to see what the design.
of course, the design was good, but I don't, no one is proposing a 10-story building here, so
Right.
I don't think it's gonna be a controversial review process.
do you have a landscape plan besides the?
Yeah, good question.
We do
Yeah.
not at this time. We do not have landscape. We have talked about the buffer between the 3 independent single families that are on Pine Street. And there is a wide enough buffer to make that happen. So on the far side of the street, but the landscape plan itself is.
Yeah, so I think that's at some point between now and the end of the building design committee, with a landscape plan showing like patio locations, screening and buffering and other types of
And
landscaping.
native plants rather than. Um,
Can I make a suggestion too, Sarah, in order to, since this is our first design review committee, I saw the write-up here of what the materials are in the window, placement, the fenestration, the gable shade versus the gambrel here. Is there a list of materials that are being used on the building that are available that we could see as part of it? Just frankly, it won't make a difference, it's saying, but it will be more informative to those who are looking at it for the first time to know what is going where as far as
Sure.
whether it's wood, you know, whether it's cementitious or whether it's PVC or whatever it is. Just as a point, notes.
We're glad to do that, but to your point, Mark, this is will be an iterative thing. We'll probably see you 2 or 3 times before we get
Right.
done. So think of all your questions and respond.
I have another suggestion too. It would be helpful to us. There are a list of criteria that you have to meet. It would be really helpful to us
Yeah,
for you to address each of the criteria. And tell us how you're complying with them, so we don't have to guess.
And that criteria would be in the 3A.
Yes.
Yes, design
Yes.
guidelines.
it's quite voluminous, but it's
But it's specific, so it's,
That's not new to us. That to get there.
And it includes the landscape elements as well as.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to underline that I think the landscape, it's a big enough change to the site. Positive though it is, that the landscaping is really important, particularly I would imagine to neighbors. Because what was there before was an open field.
But truthfully, the grades are such that all the people that are up on the hill will look over top of these. So really, it's just Brian's house that is direct above her, and the 2 that I'm constructing.
Yes. Well, and the one across the street,
And
yeah,
the one, well, yeah.
across Deer Hill.
Yeah, but yes, and the one across you.
Yeah, but I think I would, to Chris's point, take your statement of design intent and walk through the section for design standards, which is 9.4.9. And walk right through those lighting, materials. Or if there are any exemptions that you're looking for. So,
The other kind of key element will be drainage design for the site. So I think I already mentioned that in the past, but and that it might require a stormwater permit from Public Works. So they would review that finally. So,
Yes, engaged Rick Salvo engineer clients helps with that.
okay.
And he already had some thoughts on that. I think he actually made one on engineering.
Mhm.
Certainly.
Okay.
the other thing is that there are some standards for in section 6.3.7 that are pretty obvious, but just again, walk yourself right through those in terms of landscape elements, finished grades, so forth. Anything else we should, I guess you should ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on the proposal before us?
Are these just a slab or
Wait a minute, let's your name
Brian Parker,
and what's your
40
address?
Pine Street?
Okay, great.
Are these just gonna be on a slab?
We're hoping to put at least limited basements under a couple of, but you see how high we've been
Yeah,
working to
it's-
get the other one. I'm not absolutely sure that's gonna happen. It's this, the ledge goes from old weathered ledge that we can almost excavate or we can tap into ledge that need dynamite. And so I think the site will answer that question.
Great. Any other questions right now from people or from the board?
anyone in line?
I'm looking. If you're online, you have a question, just go ahead and sing out. There's not many people online. Okay, so I think we will continue the hearing until our next meeting, or we may decide,
You may want to continue it until July so that the.
so that the design review committee can
Design
do it.
review
If,
committee.
if the design review committee can review it and make any recommendations, I think we can, seems to me that this can be pretty straightforward.
Should, yes, as a point of order here, do you want me to contact them or would you like to stay there?
Yeah, no, I can do that because I'll have to put an agenda together and get it
Okay.
posted and get a room and so.
Um. So the other thing I was gonna suggest is that, if for some reason, one of those two, design review committee is unavailable, like is traveling for the month or something, is there a board member who would like to fill in for them? As a.
Just kidding.
Yeah,
Peter.
Yeah, Peter.
Peter.
Might be a lot of help
I
there.
think you would be.
You're
You'd
good,
be
you're
looking
good.
at it with a
If
fresh
you need
eye.
some, I'd be happy
Okay,
to.
yeah, well, so
Yeah.
we can agree that Peter would fill in if Gary or Chuck are unavailable. That way it keeps it moving,
Yeah.
for everybody's sake. Okay, great.
Sorry, can I guess, and I know you mentioned the two homes that you're gonna build in front of these duplexes. Do you have approximate timing on when that will begin?
One, has begun. and
Right, I see,
And we're in front of, engineering for a foundation plan. They have foundation design. And then we'll be back in front of them with the building permit thing. My brother will start building out I've seen some mistakes that there is doing layouts. But I guess kind of hoping that we have something to sell at the end of the year.
For those two.
Yeah.
That'd be marvelous.
Okay, so
Sell something by the end of the year, you're done.
Well, if the building is up and painted on the outside and the outside is finished, then we could be talking about what kind of cabinets do you want on the inside and close in February.
great. So we'll take a motion to continue this to July 13th, and I'm gonna make it at 7, just because sometimes that's helpful. The motion to continue
I'll
the
make that
Deer
motion.
Hill, one Deer Hill Road site plan review, and a second, all in favor?
I,
Opposed? Okay, great. We are getting into summer, so definitely try to have, if you can check all the boxes on July 13th, that would be in everybody's interest, because we will probably skip at least one of our summer meetings for. Okay,
And I take you want me to coordinate with Mark and he'll.
yeah, we'll get that going.
Is that right? Yeah.
Right away. So, yeah, the design review group should probably plan for having 2 meetings in case there's questions. Okay, good. Sandy?
May I make a comment? I just wanted to say to Mr. Ford and Mr. Parker, this is the first time that this new zoning is gonna go into place. Mr. Parker, I think, as you may know, is the neighbor on the north end of
Mhm.
things. And so as we kind of move through this together, it's really a good thing to have both of you with an open attitude and moving it forward. So thank you.
Well, and I think you'll recall from my first meeting, we didn't max out the site. I want this to look like something. And the 3A fell on me from this guy.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Great. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next public hearing, he said was gonna be at 7:30. Is that correct? We continue to 7:30? The cell tower. I'm pretty sure we continue
Oh.
to 7:30. So we'll gonna jump over that to talk about, the housing production plan. We'll come back to the special permit for the, 17 Ashland Ave cell tower. At 7:30. Mark, updates on the housing production plan?
So, I sent out, you had submitted some comments to Karen Sonberg, our consultant, who has, sent in a revised draft with some updated numbers. And so I sent that out to everybody today.
I missed it.
Okay,
It just came at 9 today.
yeah.
It's come back. Please
And then,
join us.
yes, and you know, for
Oh, I
maybe
did.
I thought I did, maybe. And so,
I think Karen just sent it to you and me.
oh, okay. So, she will, is attending the Housing Trust meeting on the 16th, I believe. And we're doing a public forum on the 17th. So those are the two opportunities, last steps for her to get feedback from one of the town housing groups. And the last of them she hasn't spoken with, and then have the public forum, after which time she'll begin to put together the rest of the plan, add the comments in, recommendations, and other thoughts, and then she'll come back to the planning board. Not entirely sure whether she's gonna be prepared to come back at the 22nd yet. That'll be.
She said she was unavailable that day, so remember, that's why we pushed a public forum off cycle meetings.
Mhm.
Which is why I also, I'm gonna give us, try to only do maybe one meeting in July and one in August, because we're trying to push before people disappear.
So, so it's the 17th on a Wednesday.
So if it's not a regular meeting time, if you can't attend, let me know. So, okay, and, so I do still have some comments to make on the plan, and it seems to me that the big piece is, do we meet the SHI or not, right? That's do we have the required number of units? My concern is that, with the Gordon Woods project, that this may, get additional, people will be looking around for housing data and housing, and so we want to make sure it's right. And I still think that the big thing I see is that it's not identified which things are escalated and which things are not. And I'm fine if they're not. Like housing prices, I'm not convinced that the average housing price, I have a long list. I also think that her charts are difficult to read with two years in the chart with a slash between them. That is like an odd way to present data.
What do you mean specifically, Sarah? If you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I'll show you.
Was that one of the chart? So we
Oh,
looked
there
at
are
last
a
time?
lot, yeah, there are a bunch of them. So I can try to, and maybe it's not worth, I mean, I just think it's a very odd. People
It's an
can't read it.
extremely
Not good.
well-written, informed,
Yeah,
data-driven document. It's amazing.
yeah.
It's almost like too much information. It's
Well, yeah,
incredible.
the kind of the point I'm wondering is, so what?
So what?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit.
In what way?
So it's like, what do we garner from all the data? That, it
What's the
seems to me
point?
the one thing is that we don't have the required number of units in the SHI. I mean, if this was written for Brockton, and the number, the income numbers, the rental numbers, and the poverty numbers maybe were different in any community.
It's huge.
But they still didn't meet the number of
It's huge.
units on the SHI, that's. Then how would the plan be different?
It'd be different.
Well, so it's more about the recommendations, you know, and what your community needs. Does your community need housing, like, for seniors? Does your, like in Brockton, they needed more workforce housing, needed to bring more middle income people to jobs in the community. They had neighborhood, I mean, I worked there, so if you're gonna use that as an example, they had a lot of less affluent, really,
Yeah.
people, and then they had neighborhoods with a lot of, and they were missing the middle. Not the middle type housing, but the type population, so, you know, they needed that kind of thing, so workforce housing, if they had done a HPP while I was there, I think they are over 10%, so there was no
But
like interest in
A
doing that.
place. Yeah.
But yeah, but that's what their recommendation is. As opposed to here where it's a little different. We need senior housing, we need starter homes, we need different things than what they need. So I think that's kind of the key, is not so much all this data, it's like, where are we going with it? And that's what's important.
Data was necessary to make an informed decision.
Yes.
I did feel it.
Yeah.
It was burdensome to read it sometimes, but when you got through it, you came up with like 5 or 6 conclusions.
Well, maybe to Sarah's point, what she should be doing is,
what are those conclusions?
yeah,
What are those
Yeah.
conclusions?
yeah,
And this
make
is
the,
just
make the transition from.
One of the
Yeah,
charts
I
that is
agree.
very odd to read, at least is establishment wages. This is just an example. She does it all over the place. 2013, 2024, and then she has this like I mean, it's just an odd, unusual way to present data.
Yeah, some of that was a little.
It's very hard
I
to.
had to.
So Mark, she's done
may not
other
be
towns
worth-
too, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
And is that the format she uses?
Why
Typically.
compared
It'll be interesting to look at another one just to see whether that's her.
Yeah, I just think it's hard to read and,
Has there been another edition of this, another?
right. That's what I.
Yes,
Yeah, we,
it was done in 2020.
2020.
No, I mean,
No,
since we've read this one
No.
and from May, has there been anything else? No.
She's about this,
Oh, it's got
they're about to
more.
get a new one.
so I guess the other question is think a little bit, or the other point of the forum is to think about the recommendations, because we agreed last time that she would do a public forum and ask for input. And then we'll get her input as well and think about what those recommended, that's the important part, right, is what are the recommendations?
So what I'm gonna ask at the Affordable Housing Trust meeting and for the board to consider is specific recommendations for some specific sites in town that are under consideration. And I think a big one is Gordon Woods, and I'd love to hear what she would say would be her recommendation for how Gordon Woods should be developed from the town's point of view. And the second one, and which is a bit controversial, but I'm gonna do it anyway, is the Masonic Temple, the senior center. Should that be a site for senior housing? Because it's a big piece of land in the middle of town. And needs to consider, what's her recommendation about that? Maybe you should say, it's too close to the water, blah, 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 it shouldn't be considered, but I'd love to hear her recommendation about it. There are also 2 other sites. One is the Standpipe Hill site that we've been talking about. I'd love to get her opinion about that. And finally, maybe this New England Power site that we're talking about.
So, in discussing sites with them, or the consultants, whether it's Karen or somebody else, they're not gonna necessarily give you like, this is what you should do. What you as the planning board need to do is you need to provide in the plan town-owned sites that are potential housing sites and or other private sites such as power that could be potential housing sites that the town could pursue for housing. So I don't think you're gonna get the answer from her, guidance from her about what you should do. She's gonna turn that and say, do you feel those are appropriate sites to consider for housing? And so you as the board have, because if your plan, so in the last community, they didn't even want to submit any properties. They submitted like the dump. And didn't submit any in town environmental reports that said that you could build on it. So the state said, well, we don't know whether there's hazardous waste there or whatever, because you can in some instances build adjacent to and on. But so they kicked it and said, you need to provide other things. So apparently they did because they got a plan approved, but so we need to do that. That's an important element, and she will discuss that with you.
So Mark, what you were just describing was the prior edition of the housing production plan for Manchester?
No, another community.
Another community.
Yes. So.
I would also be careful, this is the town's plan, not a consultant's plan. And so I would be very careful about asking a consultant to at least write down a particular recommendation on any particular site, not knowing all of the other factors that it's proposed for the DPW or it's whatever.
And that's the other thing. I mean, we can write in that we have a new facilities committee. And that the committee is evaluating several of the town sites, and we list them, and we can say what the town's needs are, and that we anticipate that one of them might become available for, you know, a future housing site, but at this time we can't identify that specific site out of these three, let's say. And then you could, as well as identify two other possible sites. So, you know, one being the Standpipe Hill, one being Tower, one being, even if it doesn't pan out to be feasible, because the structure of the building, right, is such that you just basically have to level it and start again, and that the flood elevations coming up over the parking lot just doesn't make it safe to build housing there, or whatever other reasons. But if we include it as a possibility, this, as long as there's some justification, the state might accept that as one of the possible housing sites. It doesn't mean a local committee working on that project is going to agree, but it can be identified as a potential project. And you know, and that's what they're looking for, is communities to, they're trying to prod communities, think outside of the box and try and figure out what do you have access to that you can add some housing units to.
One of the other things I was wondering about that I don't see in the plan is other, you know, other constraints that whether they're real or imagined. And I'm thinking of water, sewer. I mean, schools are often a you know, given or, you know, put out there as a constraint. Do we put those in this plan, or are they just, we silent on the, are these plans silent on those issues?
Yeah, I know it hasn't been updated yet,
Yeah.
but she did address them years ago about exactly those things, the utilities and services necessary to allow this to happen. So I've got this little brief summary, and I don't know what page it's on, 138 of the original one here. It did define generally what the town needs to do to carry this forward without getting to specific sites. In fact, she makes specific mention that the town needs to consider available public lands for this to happen without identifying anything. So I think to allay your fears, if you had your fears about it, my friend, she did address this previously, and I assume that, I was talking with Peter before, it's gonna be very interesting whether she is able to update this with fresh material and come up with a different opinion, because this is so thoroughly written and not so different than probably you'd come up with right now.
This is one of the most complete and
It's
all plan that I've ever seen.
It is.
That's a lot of data.
And
You just wonder what else she can add to it.
yeah, because in the previous community, the regional planning agency had put one together, and it's very simple, it's got data, it's got information, it has recommendations, but it's a much more simplified version.
Yeah.
And so it's not required, so what I'm saying is it's not required to have such a big, thick, voluminous, involved plan. So the fact that you do gives you extra.
It has a lot of
information.
utility for other planning questions.
Mhm,
You've
right.
done.
Well, just to ask a dumb question as a new planning board member, how is the plan used? Like, what's the purpose of it? Who's gonna pick it up and read it, find it online? What's the purpose of it?
But the purpose is several things. One is for the community to try and find and identify sites to build housing. I mean, that's the state's ultimate goal. The town can use it to claim safe harbor if they develop a certain number of sites, units each year. And that gives them like a year or maybe two, or if a private developer builds a big project and you get a chunk. So that's another use of it. So, and then of course, it just is a place to assemble other information that you might use when you're doing other planning and
I would imagine as a person who might be looking to do a project somewhere, that if they found this housing plan and it talked about all these great things, all the justification for why Manchester needs more housing. And then it was accompanied with, I don't know, a drawing or some version of our town zoning map perhaps, that then located these sites, even with a wish list of potential number of units on them. Then all of a sudden you're getting a lot of like, oh gosh, we could do 30 units on this lot. This is something that I could be interested. I better go talk to this town. It seems without that, without the sites being pretty clearly identified and maybe even just vetted at a very low level as to how many units would fit there. Someone else would then have to take that leap forward and do that work themselves.
Yeah, generally these don't get into private sites because in some towns, you know, they're big towns, lots of undeveloped lands and stuff like that. But even those towns with limited public land still have to come up with some public sites.
But even so, we have a number of decent public sites.
We do, and if you look at her last plan, she listed 4 of them. And Chris, you just listed off 7 or 8 of them, so that'll be different alone.
She also has a zoning strategy section in here, which essentially is what I thought about as well. What John just expressed is here is you come up with what the zoning strategy, which would allow that developer to understand how to take his thoughts and now apply it to our town. So whether this becomes the final document or not, I think that this is very complete.
And there are a lot, it's interesting because when you look at her strategy, it's very similar to the master plan's
Yes,
strategy.
yeah, she refers to the master plan multiple times. Yeah,
There's a lot of crossover in both those documents.
So the other point I want to make though is that this would give the town some sort of context under which to review the Gordon Woods.
Yes, exactly.
And I think
agree.
that's, the timing is kind of perfect for that.
Well, I want to make sure it's right.
So is it fair to say that she's given us hasn't quite given us, but very soon to have the information from which we can now apply it to however we so choose?
I think that's
She's
the
not
idea.
giving us the answers. She's given us the material that allows us to maybe move forward with to get those answers.
Base decisions on, yeah.
I actually liked it. All 222 pages of it.
It's a great tool. No, there's,
It is.
and it's only 101 pages. You're exaggerating.
Maybe I just,
Read it twice.
you didn't read the other side of the page.
Yeah, right.
Another question, Mark, that maybe you can pass on to her. The state has a initiative called state lands for housing. And when I worked, I just saw that person who's running that. It's nice, night before. And I'll probably see her again, but I think I looked, when I worked at the state, I think I looked at what we have for state lands, and it's not, you know, I think it's the DPW, the state, DOT, whatever.
Yeah.
Yard.
Yeah. So the housing trust has done that.
What?
The housing trust I prepared little plots of properties.
So it would probably make sense to reach out to the person, I can do that, the person who's running that program and say, have you identified any parcels in Manchester that are on your list? Because if they have, they're clearing a bunch of hoops for those, you know, it would be good to know. I mean, it would be silly for us not to produce this plan and find out that the state has a parcel on their list. So I can, you know,
We can build something in the ramp of 128 Interstate.
well, it's actually,
That's the thing to build on, of all their properties they own.
okay, we looked at one of those. Okay, so thank you, Brad. Okay, any other comments on the housing production plan? So Wednesday, July 16th. That's
Seventh.
June.
June
June 7th.
17th at 6:30
Yeah, how many, 17th to 16th, 17th,
Whatever that Wednesday is,
17th.
17th.
okay.
Mark, when did you contract with her to start this? Do you recall the date?
Oh, a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's incredible, so.
What's the time and night that it's 7:00?
Just,
And there will be a Zoom link, so if that's better for people, you could, I mean, it's great, we'll have a few of us here at least. At least get a form.
It's July, yes.
No, June.
June,
June.
Well, look at your thing, right now, I'm reading what I'm saying. Oh, okay.
Okay.
You-
send out a reminder.
I don't think
I
you
do
know.
well on school, because you're just copying. You're on my paper.
Let's keep going because we, let's talk about our, site walk. Any impressions or thoughts, that people want to bring? So just for the, record, we walked, down Bridge Street, down Ashland Ave, back up Ashland Ave, down Bennett Street, and then into Morse Court. We also went into
Central Street, we started.
Central Street and,
Ashland.
no, the Colburn property.
Yeah.
Or Fieldhouse Square.
Fieldhouse.
And I think individually, perhaps we can go the remainder of Bridge and Bennett. And then, and that we'll schedule another time. It will be equally as nice weather, I'm sure, to go, the other direction. But I think hopefully it was useful to think a little bit about where that boundary is. The thing that struck me when I was preparing this is that where District E starts. District E starts on the coastal side of where Bennett and Bridge intersect and go all the way to Westminster. Wow. On that direction with, and that's, and then, the Smiths Lane Street. Yeah, but I thought that was interesting.
Sarah, I have one comment or
Yeah, go
impression
ahead.
of the walk. I think that area, Ashland, even more, I was surprised at how pleasant Morse Court was
Yes.
and the density, but actually how attractive that area was. It's a place where a young family would love to live. It's safe. Kids could be riding on that, circle area, any case. But also the area in front of Town Hall as you come down. This is all the area that was developed a very long time ago. Pre-zoning, pre-cars, pre all that stuff. Yet it's an excellent example of the density that we want, I think, in town. Even the mixed use, not of course in Morse Court, not on Ashland, but definitely out on Central. So I think as we look at the rest of the general district, it'll be interesting, I think, to compare what was done a couple hundred years ago to compare what was done in the last 100 years. Sort of setting up a little argument here, but we'll see on the next walk.
So, the Manchester Museum is doing these talks and they did one about School Street,
Yeah,
which a couple of us went to. I wonder if we could ask them to do one on, I mean, they had a person who had done some analysis, but I wonder if it might be interesting to have at least they did a talk that lots of people would be interested in, but we can reach out to them and see.
Great. Yeah, we did a little exercise in our office over the last few months, taking all the old drawings, as many old maps as we could find, sandboard maps as well, and documenting how the town grew over time. And it's really, really interesting how the harbor plays into it, how dredging the harbor plays into it, how the train plays into it, and even how 128 plays into it. As an interesting note, the parking lot that is behind us came into existence because they dealt with the dirt from 128
Build it.
and filled that in.
It's like Back Bay. Yeah.
from 128, that was in the
Yeah.
50s.
1952.
Wow. So what was there before was water or marsh? Water.
Just like prior to the train,
Mhm.
the area where we now think of the train stop and Beach Street building That was all Jeffries Creek.
And that was filled too,
That was filled as well.
diverted or
Yep.
both,
I
yeah.
think the creek is still under there somewhere.
Yeah.
It's been culverted underground. But how that area developed over time compared to this is totally different. Different attitude to the street, different way of dealing with cars, because they didn't exist 200 years ago. So anyway, I think we should look at that.
I think the area we walked, almost all of the homes are right, front, right on the sidewalk, and the parking is behind or orchard side. It makes for a lovely feeling of just.
And so all those houses are non-conforming, and that might be something we might think about.
They're not all, well, probably most,
I bet
right?
probably 20-foot setback requirement. No, the way, let's check and see, maybe.
No, it's
Yeah, they have
also
to.
interesting to experience and
Well, maybe
them
5 feet.
shutting down Union Street. I just the small line, or in that little stretch.
Oh my
around,
gosh.
just To getting around in this town.
So the general district is 6,000 square feet area, 60 feet of frontage, 50 feet width, 5 feet of frontage, 10 feet of side setback, well, many of them probably are not that. And rears 10 feet, but I would say most of them. On the front setback are 5.
The 5-foot front setback.
Probably 25% are right on the street. Me. Especially on this side of
Yeah,
Bridge
right.
Street.
5 feet's only for me to you.
So I know,
Yeah.
some were right on the sidewalk. Maybe not 25, maybe 2 or 3.
So,
I mean, the tricky thing, what people love is all that variety, all the difference that happened over a couple hundred years. So how do you create zoning that allows for that much difference without it all getting to be the same?
It's the trouble with zoning.
Yeah, well,
well, design and review for everything.
The other thing to look at, to your point, I think, is that what has actually been built downtown in the general district under our zoning.
Mhm.
And let's take a look at what our zoning has created. In other words,
What has been built in that?
not much.
Not much.
And we'll find out whether the
Well-
splitting the town districts will have any impact too.
Also, there's the Cape Ann Savings Bank building.
Yes,
yeah.
which is an
Which
urban
is,
planning disaster,
yeah, exactly.
but our zoning
Crosby-
created it.
Right.
Crosby was-
Well, in Harbor Point was in that time frame, but it's totally against the zoning
Yeah, I
of the
don't know
area.
what they did for Harbor Point.
No, does anybody know? Because it's a district and it sure, I mean, it's the opposite of a.
Good question.
Maybe we don't want to know.
All right, well, we're gonna be talking a lot about that
Gonna have
going
none.
forward.
There, where's the next sidewalk? You wanna do it at 5:30 on the 22nd?
Does that work for people or is
What's
that?
the weather
on
gonna
the-
be like?
That'd be really.
5:30.
Yeah, it'd be 90.
I would have, this is for the rest of the district.
Or some,
Yeah,
Some portion there.
okay. I would like to get everybody interested in doing a similar sort of walk for the D1 district.
yeah.
Because there's some stuff going on in the district, some of which is good and some of which is not so good. And there's a whole need to think about what we do there, because people are having an empty lot turn into 4 homes, 4 big homes. And it's allowed by right. So no design review, no process, et cetera. So I kind of want to get that on everybody's list along with the general district more.
The general is because we have the planning grant,
Yeah,
that's why we're focusing on the general, but I think the concept of scale, to me, is an important. I think, the variety of style, classic style, whatever that, New England style, whatever that means. But we still have some modern in the district or in the adjacent district. But I think for me, scale is one of those pieces and that's what I liked about what Tom is doing here. Feels like a small scale, smaller scale. Okay, so we'll try for 5:30 before the the meeting in June, the next 2 weeks from today. Okay, just briefly, zoning reorganization project, we mentioned that the town clerk has a grant to do some reorganization. Mark and I met with Christine to review the preliminary outline. Mark made some suggestions about grouping things, so more to come on that. In that discussion, we realized that the subdivision rules, which haven't been touched in a long time, all reference the old zoning sections.
Oh, geez.
So they were gonna think about how we should
Is
handle
that a
that.
bylaw or is that
It's
just
a regulation.
regulations?
Those are regulations,
We
those
can
you would,
just change.
you would change after, yes, public hearing. They, I believe they are going, the
Okay.
company will put together a list of what needs to get changed and give us a draft that we can subsequently review.
But that we want, if we're gonna change it, we must change it to the new
Sure,
sections,
of
but
course.
that takes town meeting and then the AG to approve it and,
Well, we could change regulations twice, but,
yeah,
so I read the Bobrowski memo again.
Yeah.
And I was amazed how much of it we've
We've
actually
tried to
done.
yeah, I didn't
that's-
see
that's
any
the-
big things except the non-conforming. use
Yeah,
line
that's
was
a
the
big
big
one.
one.
Yeah, the cluster zoning.
Yeah.
Residential cluster, but
Yeah, that comes up in the housing production plan. too.
Yep.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. Not surprised,
well, please.
pleased, yeah. Okay, let's see if we can get minutes quickly done. Approval of minutes for March 30th. That was a working group, and I think only Sarah and Sandy can approve that because I think the other person there was Sue. I've reviewed them because we talked about communication, so I'll move and Sandy will second. And we're gonna. Aye. The joint meeting with the select board, I sent that back, or that I amended our section because we made a motion to approve the, recommend the, transfer of land that Glovsky wanted to
Oh,
do
right.
at 0 Elm Street, and it
Yeah.
wasn't reflected in the minutes. So that's the amendment there. Everybody can vote except for Sandy. I believe everybody was there at that joint meeting, except for not John.
I was actually at one of the joint meetings. I was.
I think it
late,
was not
as
that one.
usual. Yeah.
At least that you're not listed on the minutes. So I'll take a motion everything else was sort of procedural in that one. To approve the planning board section of the joint meeting, April 23rd as amended with the reference to that
I'll
vote.
move it. to approve.
Second,
Second.
and were you there at that meeting?
I wasn't.
Maybe, I'm not sure you were there.
Yeah.
I think Brian was also not there. Okay, those who were present, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and then May 26th, the last meeting, oh, that's the other, I know what it was. They had Eli made the motion. That's the change, and that changed it to Chris, because Eli was sitting there. Okay, May 26th, that was last meeting. Any changes?
That was fine.
No. Okay, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second. Sandy was not there. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, great. It being 7:30. I'm going to open the continued public hearing for 17 Ashland Ave. Special permit to modify an existing wireless communications tower. We have Brett Smith and Michael Benton, and we had some follow-up from the last meeting that Mark and others. So maybe Mark, you start us off and
Okay.
give us an update.
Well, so a couple things to update the board. One is, it was in your packets, there were 3 decisions. the original decision in, year 2000. And it was reapproved, in for Sprint in 2002. Then, they allowed the, extend the height in 2011 by 10 feet. So those are the three that we've been able to find from the clerk's office as far as approvals go. The one in 2002 did require a security bond for the for two things. One is for the tower itself, and it required $10,000 for the removal of the tower. It also required $3,000, I believe it was three, for Sprint to remove their equipment should they have to. So we looked through the treasurer's office. We were able to find that there is a bond. We haven't been able to confirm it's still in place for the removal of the tower, and it's for $25,000. So at some point, they must have come back to the planning board for either a modification or a discussion in which the tower bond for the removal of the tower was increased to $25,000. So it was, the previous one was $25,000, and that was in 2018. So
That's the most recent one.
so that's the most recent one that the treasurer's office had. Fortunately, it looks like all the pages may not have been there because I cannot find a date for expiration. This may or may not have
Fishy.
expired.
Okay, but we still have the money.
So there's still a bond. We never received, the treasurer's office has not received anything, any notice, from, saying that we are going to, not renew a bond or not extend it or anything as such, so. It appears that it might still be in place.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
So, and that's to a company called Vertical Bridge.
That's surprising.
So out of Boca Raton, Florida.
Site visit.
However,
Okay, how about, Brett, or, you look like you've unmuted, so, I'll let you reintroduce yourself and, provide us with your updates.
Sure. Good evening, members of the board. It's good to see you all again. My name is Brett Smith. I am an attorney at Schatz, Schwartz & Fenton. Our office address is 1441 Main Street in Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm joined tonight by my colleague, attorney Michael Fenton. We are here tonight on behalf of the applicant Cellco Partnership doing business as Verizon Wireless. As a little recap from the last meeting, Verizon submitted its eligible facilities request under Section 6409 of the Federal Spectrum Act for the modification of the existing monopole at 17 Ashland Avenue. The purpose of the modification is to enhance the coverage in the area and to most significantly increase the 5G coverage and service in the Bay Area in which the monopole is located. The proposed modification entails removing 3 existing antennas and installing 6 new antennas, 3 diplexers, additional and necessary hardware and cables, as well as expanding the width of the monopole by 6 inches for the portion above the yard arms or the crossbar to the top of the monopole. And as some follow-up, we had submitted a supplemental response letter to the board where we addressed some of the items that were brought up at the prior meeting. And we'd be happy to further discuss any of those items if the board had any additional questions based on our responses.
Okay, can you just summarize those responses for us again? So we have, make sure everybody, they didn't have a chance to read it.
Sure. So one of the items that was brought up was a question as to whether the flag would still be able to be flown following the modification and the expansion. And we were able to confirm that once the modification would be completed, all of the hooks and attachment mechanisms would be added back on, and the flag would still be able to remain and be flown from the monopole. Additionally, we were asked to confirm that it wouldn't be possible to expand the width of the monopole, that additional 6 inches for the entirety of the monopole. And in the supplemental response letter, we did include some photographs of the base of the monopole, which show that due to the proximity of the existing building structure and some other additional equipment that are located at the base of the monopole, there really is not room to be able to expand the width of the monopole at the base. So it was deemed that that wasn't a feasible option. And additionally, we had looked into the question of the surety, as we are requesting a waiver of the requirement for an additional surety for tower removal. Verizon's stance is that as there's an existing financial surety in place for the tower removal, and since Verizon is only a co-locator on the pole and they don't own the pole itself, they would only be responsible for their equipment, and don't believe that a financial surety for such removal costs of the tower itself would be applicable to their proposed modification before you.
So who is? I mean, if the
What was
tower, yeah, I'm trying to understand that particular question, and that is Verizon is you're renting the tower essentially, presumably. Right?
So Verizon, yeah, so they're a co-locator, so they rent basically like a portion of the pole. They rent certain space on the pole where their equipment is located. So every different carrier that has equipment on the pole basically leases that space, whatever space that they require to be able to attach their equipment.
And who owns the pole?
I believe it's Vertical Bridge.
Yeah,
Mark
that's the vertical
mentioned-
bridge, okay.
Mentioned it, yeah.
There's a letter of authorization that was submitted from Vertical Bridge.
Can we extend the duration of the bond as part of the special permit?
Well, I think that the bond needs to be in place probably due to previous approvals. Unfortunately, we don't have the specific, the clerk couldn't find the specific filing of when it was increased to $25,000. So, I don't have that.
But we have a bond for $25,000
Yeah.
for the removal of this pole.
Mhm.
We just don't know if they don't remove it, if there's a time that we have to get it back. Probably not. Like it doesn't expire.
Well, that's the thing, bonds usually expire
Yeah.
at some point, and then, but if you do request that, let's say it's no longer, it's a defunct pole, needs to be removed, usually it says here you have 12 months, you have to take action within 12 months of the cancellation of the bond to draw on the bond, so.
I guess, can we make that decision part of this approval for this? Maybe affix that to this decision so that they're, 10 years from now, when Verizon comes back and wants to do it again, we have a paper trail.
That's legal question.
I wonder if
I
you can-
can't answer.
Can you reach out to Vertical Bridge and ask for a copy of the paperwork?
Well, we will have to do that,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so that's still an unresolved issue. And then there's the question of what are people, I'm sorry, did I interrupt you going through the,
You know what I think we could say? We could say that this permit is contingent on there being a bond. And that makes it Verizon's problem to make sure it's there. Yeah,
They'd probably have an easier time getting in touch with the owner.
I would think, yeah, I think so.
We would accept that condition. We would just ask the board to provide some level of specificity regarding the nature, value, and extent of the bond.
sounds like it's 25,000. We can provide the
Certainly the amount.
2018, whatever, documentation. So, okay, that seems reasonable. What about, the, design, any comments or questions about the matter of the width?
No. It's almost insignificant.
Yeah. So
Just make sure it's white.
basically.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, who actually, maybe Nick can answer this question. Who puts the flag up and down, just out of curiosity?
Hi, everyone. I'm not attending tonight to be in favor or opposed to anything, just simply as the representative of the property. If you guys have any questions, I can answer. The flag is the responsibility of the dock master currently.
Okay.
So he follows that, gets it put up and down according to the half staffs, different things that you find on websites. If you have any other questions, I'm somewhat familiar with the lease and everything throughout the year. I could try and answer for you. Unfortunately, I don't know much about the bond issue, but I could certainly look through paperwork and see if I could find anything for you.
Okay. Well, maybe between you and Verizon and, I'm gonna, after this meeting, go into the depths of the other room. Something.
Okay.
I was on the board when the first one was approved. Okay, any other comments from the board or questions from the board? Thank you, Nick, and that your last name is?
Elides.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the board or comments? Any questions or comments from the public? I'm not seeing any public, except JB.
Triple screen,
Okay, hearing none.
$3.
Mark, I've closed the public hearing portion of the,
Yes, yeah.
so I'm gonna take a motion to close the public portion of the hearing for 17 Ashland Ave. It's like special permit to modify a wireless communications tower.
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Okay, now, so then the question is, does somebody want to make a motion for a special permit approval? Or Mark, do you want to make a suggestion for how we would proceed?
Well, you need to proceed either tonight or by the next meeting. There's a 60-day because it's a, what's the term? Not exempt, it's a certain eligible facilities request. You need to make your decision in 60 days, which would expire on the 22nd of this month, so.
We better do it tonight.
Yeah, so you kind of need to do it tonight unless they want to wait until the next meeting and give you an extension of a day. So,
I think, there aren't any conditions other than the bond that we need to worry about.
no,
So may I suggest that we approve the special permit as presented with one condition that Verizon, that the applicant clarify this condition, this state of the existing bond, and that it remain in place for the removal of the tower at the end of its life. In the amount of the existing amount that is currently held. Believed to be 25,000.
So moved.
Okay.
Yep.
Any other conditions that?
Mm.
And that Mark would draft this and sign it. Okay, you seconded it.
I'm,
Okay,
I moved it. Yeah,
I suggested the motion, so you.
yeah, I'm seconding it.
Seconded. Okay, any other questions, concerns? And I think technically you missed the first hearing and haven't watched the video, right? And you missed the first hearing, and so if it's continued, you guys would watch the video from the last one, and then you could vote, so we have enough votes.
Can I ask one last question?
Absolutely.
And I don't want to open a can of worms or anything, just a curiosity. If I'm looking at it through the window, which is great. But to make such a change, would keeping it the same size but making it 3 feet taller be an option? And I'm thinking more ahead to 10 years later when they're asking us to make it 6 more inches bigger. So is there a reason why it becomes thicker rather than taller?
I would say because of the way that the lease arrangements work, each carrier leases a specific like footage and portion of the pole. So Verizon has the lease rights to the portion where their equipment currently is. It would have to be the tower owner's application and decision to increase the overall height of the pole. And that would be something separate from what Verizon would be able to be applying for without the cooperation of the tower owner at this point.
Great question, though.
Yeah, it's a great question. Probably structurally, then you get a whole new structural analysis.
Well, more complicated, that now they have to lease a different part of the
Different
pole.
percentage of the pole.
Right.
Yeah, more complicated.
Air rights. Okay. So we have a motion to approve the special permit with a single condition. Bond, any other discussion? All in favor? And then opposed, and I'm gonna say 2 abstentions because Nancy and Sandy haven't had a chance to watch the video. To clarify, thank you. So it passes. So if you miss a meeting on a special permit, you do have to go back and watch the video and then sign something with the clerk before you vote. And so we're fine on that tonight. But for example, you both were here for Deer Hill, that's gonna continue next meeting, so you'll be able to. But if you were to miss the next meeting, or one of us misses the next meeting, we can watch the video, sign at the town clerk, and then we can vote. And that's why it's so important to have associate members, because sometimes, at the Deer Hill, we already have one member who can't vote on it. It's summer, people might be traveling, so associate members are important. Great, thank you, Brett and Michael,
And Nick.
and Nick. Welcome to stick around and listen to the rest of our meeting, which is gonna be quite short, but you'll be in touch with Mark about the bond issue. Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, correspondence. I did have one correspondence with John Carlson, who had raised expressed interest in the driveway regulations at town meeting. I forwarded, or Kendall forwarded them to him. And he did, get back to us. I'll put it in the next meeting's, packet. But he said 2 omissions were line of sight regulations. And there's no recommendation how close a driveway can be to an intersection. I think
So-
we missed that.
Yeah,
Yes, that, it is in there, it's 20 feet, it's
Yeah.
already in the bylaw.
Right,
And I went and talked to Chuck about the line of sight, and he's like, our streets are 20 miles an hour. Your line of sight is really based on DOT.
well, he says check Mass DOT and.
Yeah,
Okay,
He said
so,
it's really not an issue.
okay, so you know what I'll do is I'll just get back to him and say.
Yes.
"You check." So that was the only correspondence that I haven't, I also forwarded you the, presentation by the JG,
Yes.
folks
Yeah.
about Gordon Woods. And there was a communication from Lorraine Iavoni about, Gordon Woods. I don't know if everybody got that, but I
Yeah,
can
we
make
did.
sure that people, I think she sent it.
See
So, and then there was a couple of here, we get correspondence from other towns. So that, you know, as we give them, notice of the public hearings and zoning changes and stuff as well. Other things,
So one thing came up today. And
scratches.
yeah, so I'm trying to think the best way of saying this. So one of the local businesses had an issue with their landlord about signage. The windows, and somebody else had an issue with signage that they had put up when they moved in like a year ago. And they're also in the historic district. And so after spending a half hour on the phone with Rosemary, talking about signage, and I came to the conclusion that basically we don't require, number one, a sign permit. And secondly, if we did require a sign permit, that's where we could require a sign off from the historic commission in order to receive your permit if you're in the historic district. So right now our sign bylaw doesn't, it just has certain limitations, but there's no requirement for a permit. I think that is another one of those little zoning, it's in the zoning bylaw that I can draft and we can put on the agenda along with a couple of the other small ones that we already talked about, so that we can submit it for the fall town meeting. So even if we don't rework the whole sign bylaw, because it is pretty tight as far as what it allows, and I haven't heard a lot of clamoring to allow lots of other different types of signs, so I think it's just the process needs to be clarified.
So I think it'd be helpful for you to do a first draft,
Mhm.
because it seems simple, but my guess is that there might be
Yeah.
unforeseen.
Yes.
I know that the sign bylaw, what came up, around temporary banners at the schools and Sweeney Park and sponsors of sports teams. Because I think those are a gray area, for example. And that I think the select board ruled that they were temporary signs or some, I don't remember the nuance there, but that's an example of you know, like something we might not think about. So let's draft something and start to figure out what the
Yeah,
things
if
are.
there are other things like you want to see specific exemptions for signs at recreation facilities that are like designed for the attendees, not for viewing from the street, so to speak. You know, we can always add an exemption for that, you know, just to clarify policy, you know, other types of things.
Okay, great.
Mark, how is it handled in other towns? Is it a ZBA, planning board, or design review board?
So It varies, in a lot of the communities, it's just simply a sign permit, and there's a multi-page sign bylaw. So, you know, where you have lots of development and you have different types of districts, so you'll have a downtown district, you'll have a highway business district, and you'll have some other little village districts, so you might have, signs that'll be by district, and there'll be different requirements, and you can have different numbers of signs, and then you might allow certain types of signs to be in turn, so you have sections on internally illuminated, or neon, or other types of things. So all of a sudden, what we might have in half a page, in another community will be 5 or 6 pages. Because, but generally, it doesn't really go to a board, you know, unless maybe you're in a historic district. So,
So we don't have a lot of signs.
no, you
We
don't.
simply say advertising or other signs shall be permitted elsewhere in the bylaw, shall it's subject to applicable provisions of the general bylaws.
I didn't get a chance to look.
And then
at
the
it.
second is no flashing, animated or internally illuminated signs should be permitted in any district. No illuminated sign of any kind should be permitted in a residential district. And the third section is real estate signs, not over 6 square feet and advertising property for sale. So then the question is in the general bylaws. Okay, so we'll see what we
Yeah, so
have.
we'll see, but if there are other things that you want. Should get tossed in there.
Okay. Great. Any other things?
I move we adjourn.
Chris moves to adjourn.
I will second that.
All in favor?
I.
Opposed?
We'll see. I'm gonna have to go to the store first.
Oh.
I don't wanna say.